In 2003, UbiSoft had a giant hit on their hands. A game where you have the ability to not only parkour on walls and sword fight bad guys, but also to rewind time with the push of a button. This time-bending game was received very well, spawning sequels and eventually a movie, but we don't really have to talk about that.
Ostrich racing.
Every Tuesday and Thursday.
While this was in no part a brand new franchise, they spruced it up and modernized it enough to make it into a whole new thing. And even as it died, it never really went away, as it's responsible for creating one of my favorite franchises in Assassin's Creed. I try to spark nostalgia by sharing games from my childhood, but also I really selfishly just want to go back and finish those games because as a kid, I'm dumb and didn't beat it. And The Sands of Time was one of them. So let's take a look at Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time is an action-adventure game developed and published by UbiSoft and released for pretty much every console in the 6th generation. You play as the prince who, during an attack of an ancient city by his daddy, under the advice of the obvious bad guy, the prince finds the Dagger of Time. And Papa and the bad guy Vizier capture an hourglass with the Sands of Time. Oh, look at the title. They take this as a gift for the Sultan of Azad, and the bad guy tricks the prince into releasing the sands. The sands turn the people of Azad into zombie monsters that he controls. The Sultan's daughter Farah joins us and tries to fix this mess. With the dagger, we collect the sand from enemies and these glowy circles that gives us the ability to manipulate time, the main mechanic of the game. The game is split into two things: platforming / puzzle solving and combat. I guess that's three, but the platforming and puzzle kind of go hand in hand. And the time manipulation really comes into play perfectly in both. In the platforming, it comes mainly when you screw up. If you miss a jump or get killed by some random spikes or something, you can just rewind and try again. You have 10 seconds to rewind and there's a little bit of a cooldown, and you have sand to use. It's really smooth for the most part. I knew where I was going and I knew where the game wanted me to go, and that's pretty important as well. That's some of the main challenges actually, figuring out where the hell I'm supposed to go. There was no Naughty Dog Yellow invented yet. A big thing back then was shitty camera control, and the camera was never really in the way, and that's very important, especially for platformers. It also expanded the level of parkourness in the wall running, pole swinging, bouncing off the walls. Even during combat, it definitely gets high cool points for that. But also, all this just works very smoothly, and very rarely did the prince do something I didn't want him to do. Maybe once or twice he didn't exactly wall run, but it was really my fault just because I didn't have the right angle, and when I did screw up, I just rewound up 10 seconds and try again. What did surprise me was the fall damage. More than once I looked at how far up I was from the ground and thought, yeah, I should be fine, and my dude would just straight up die. I'm like, bruh, I can drop that now with my old dusty knees, come on. But again, you just rewind and start again. As you progress, platforming gets harder and harder as it's supposed to, adding spikes, spinning swords, tiles that force you to race down to the door that's slowly closing, and other things that could potentially kill you and hurt you. I could definitely see some early Assassin's Creed DNA in the platforming fluidity for sure, especially in the climbing and just the way that he moves, and he could just be sitting there hanging and it feels like early Assassin's Creed. The puzzles also get harder and harder as well, but it's nothing really that crazy. Except for I think I did get PTSD from this guy just yelling at me. I think this is where I left off the last time, which is very early in the game.
That's it! One crank turns the platform! The other one raises and lowers it!
And I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of happy when he died.
We did it! Serve those accursed demons right! Oh my God, they'll rue the day they ever dared attack the Palace of Azad!
The game is super linear, there's really no exploration. There aren't collectibles per se, but you can find these sand clouds that recover your sand, and there are also 10 fountains of life hidden throughout the game, each giving you a health boost. The platforming / puzzle aspect of Prince of Persia is really strong. The other aspect is the combat. It might not be as strong in my opinion, but it's a great partner. Puzzles and platforming I think are definitely a little bit better than the combat, but the combat is still good and works pretty well even today. There's like a low-key lock-on system, like you can't see it, but you can feel it kinda. It's one of those. You can block and dodge, and that works very well. You have a dagger and the sword as weapons. The dagger you can freeze enemies, and is mainly where your special attacks come from. You freeze the enemies in time and then you kill them with just a few hits, and you must turn them into sand once they're down. If not, they will pop back up and keep attacking you. The other time powers are time delay, which slows everything down and you move a bit faster than they do. The power of restraint freezes them, like I said. And the power of haste is by far the best one. Everyone freezes and you hop from one enemy to the other, killing them with one hit for a certain amount of time until the timer runs out. But this one uses all your sand balls. Once your balls are depleted, you gotta try the best to fill them back up again. If your balls run out of sand, that could spell danger in both aspects, really. Luckily, there are many ways to restore the sand, not only from enemies, but there's also these glowy balls. There are 3 different swords that you find along the way. The prince will swap them out as you go. There's also non-time bending moves you can do. You can use the wall to bounce off and charge towards an enemy. You can also vault over enemies in a cool slow-mo if you pair this with a strike. This actually happens a bunch of times. Even during platforming, they really make you feel kind of cool with the slow-mos. They will change the camera angle and just turn it into slow-mo, kind of like an action movie. There's also a very good variety of enemies, from bugs to sand zombie warriors, and as you go along, the warriors just get tougher and tougher, and even start blocking the vault in your dodges, and have bigger weapons, and block your stuff. So as you progress, the villains progress as well. And a lot of the combat is having you find openings to see what's the best form of attack. Maybe you freeze a fool, maybe you kill the naked ladies first. There's definitely some strategy to the combat. It's not just button mashing until they die and move on. Sometimes, even when you're paying attention, they can knock you down and they literally won't let you back up. They just maul you while you're down and they'll get a good 5 or 6 hits and you literally can't do anything. Didn't really like that. I was kind of cheating because there's nothing much you can do until you find an opening to regroup. Also, part of the difficulty is the waves of enemies. That's how you're approaching this game. So you'll fight 5 to 7 guys at a time, they all die, and then they will respawn at least 5 to 7 times. And as if that wasn't enough, friendly fire works both ways. They can hit each other, y la pendeja de la Farah can hit you too with arrows. Stupida killed me more than once. I'm over here on my last drop of health, kicking ass, dodging these bad guys, trying to be super careful, and this goober kills me with her bow and arrow. It's like, oh, sorry, pendeja, I'm dead. But other than that, the combat is pretty fun. It does start to feel a little repetitive towards the end because of how long the battles are, the fights are. And I wish we had some sort of projectile weapon, some sort of throwing knife, a bow and arrow myself, something. And graphically, I think they're still great for the times. The cutscenes look great. The only thing I wasn't a huge fan of was of this glowing looking filter it has. It makes everything look blurry in my opinion. I get the effect you're doing, but I'm already blind as hell and I need all the help I can get. And I feel like this was in the way a little bit. It's not too bad. Again, this is just a me thing. Now, I don't usually complain about the audio in games, but here I did find out a lot of issues. Like, it's too low in some cutscenes, and then when the character is far away, they're yelling at you and is louder somehow. It just didn't make sense. And in the menu, homie sounds like he's in a walkie-talkie.
Shall I continue my story from here the next time we're interrupted?
The prince will talk to himself a lot too. He's got some weird solo dialogue, like inner voice things. The prince is actually voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, and this is his voiceover debut. You may recognize him now as he plays the Amazing Spider-Man.
Alright, you can take the crack.
I also didn't get why he was slowly stripping in the game. Like, there would be a halt in the game, and he would slowly take an article of clothing off until he reached his final form that he sports on the cover. Not complaining, I just didn't get it. Towards the end, it felt like it was just going to end. But then we go into the final level, and it's a nice build up to the final battle. Unfortunately, the final battle felt super anticlimactic and a little bit too easy with this sorcerer guy. It was honestly a little bit lame. The whole game's difficulty was fairly easy because unless you run out of sandballs, if you make a mistake, you just rewind. What I did like is towards the end in this last level, they take the dagger away from you, so you can't manipulate time. And you really have to be a little bit perfect in this last run. And in combat, this is when you realize how much you actually rely on the time bending. I mean, that's the whole game, right? Otherwise, it's still a pretty run-of-the-mill action platformer. But the rewrite not only is a great mechanic, it worked great in both facets, the platforming / puzzles and in the combat. I felt like there was still a whole lot more left on the table they could have done, which is why I hope they were able to do in the sequels. I actually never played these sequels. I had played the 2008 Prince of Persia, so I need you to drop a like on this video and share it with your friends if you liked a video on these two. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and also in the comments let me know your thoughts and feelings you have of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. Thanks for watching. Remember to always and forever, you do you.